Okay, let's talk about playing position. So one of the big deals here is the seat strap is going to make a huge difference on how high or low the bocal is coming to my mouth, which is going to make a huge difference on posture. So I want to spend some time getting my seat strap adjusted correctly, and you can plan to spend a fair amount of time getting the seat strap in the right place. I did right before I started this video, so I'm there right now. But basically all that means is that I'm able to sit up, and it's even a little bit low. So I'm going to pull it across here. This is the side it's not hooked on. And you can just grab around the outside of the bassoon right here. And I'm going to pull it through a little bit. And now I see if the bassoon is coming into my mouth at the right level and the right angle. You want the bocal to actually leave the mouth at a horizontal or slightly downward angle. And if it's slightly to the left, that's okay. But if it's to the right, my bassoon has come across too far. So it's really important to get this seat strap not only adjusted correctly, but also placed in the correct part of the chair. So the very front of the chair is for sure the best place for the seat strap to be. If it gets laid in the very, very back of the chair, the back end of the bassoon goes back and gravity pulls it forward on me. And that makes my hands work a lot harder than they should. If I've got my seat strap in the appropriate place and the bassoon is coming to me, my thigh will actually end up bearing some of that weight, and my left hand will end up doing a lot less heavy-duty work, which is really important for my hands to stay healthy into the future. The problem here is that this seat strap wants to work its way back the chair, usually from scooting back on a rest or after a cutoff. The student scoots back and the seat strap goes with them. So as soon as they sit forward again, that bassoon strap has worked its way a couple inches back, and before long they are really holding all the weight of the bassoon here in their left hand, and it's trying to twist and roll away from them. So once we have our hands in the right position, if our bassoon strap is in the right place, then we shouldn't really have to work that hard to hold it up. Also, if someone's complaining of like a shoulder cramp, that's from kind of reaching back to the bottom of the bassoon here. And of course, a left hand that's really, really sore is usually a sign that something is wrong with the playing position. So basic posture is just sitting up nice and tall, and the feet are variable. The student is not going to probably be sitting on the very, very front 6 inches like we talk about, simply because you need a good amount of you on the seat strap. If the seat strap is back diagonally across the seat or straight across up here at the front, either way I need to make sure that probably my legs are over the seat strap, not my butt, simply because it's not going to slip anywhere if I've got a lot of me on the strap. So sometimes bassoon players will sit back a little bit, and so their legs will sometimes find a comfortable position. For me, I put my right foot forward and my left foot back because that just feels to me balanced with the weight of the instrument. You can ask a student what feels right to them, but pay attention to the right thigh because that's involved in actually holding the bassoon, and just make sure that they're leveraging the seat straps and making sure that it's bearing weight and that leans into the the right thigh. Those two places right there should be kind of a balance point. In fact, it's actually possible to balance the bassoon just on the seat strap and the right thigh. And I probably shouldn't let go of the bassoon, but you can really hold all the weight there if you wanted to. Then you just tip over a little bit further to about a 45-degree angle. And then you've got, hopefully, that bocal coming right into the mouth with the reed at, again, a downward or maybe slightly leftward angle. If the chin goes up or the chin goes down, the bassoon is not coming to you. So make sure that the student's not reaching, just like on saxophone, any new student who's learning how to keep their posture correct when they go to form the embouchure. Just make sure that they know the bassoon needs to be adjusted a lot. The seat strap takes a lot of attempts to get correct. So make sure that seat strap is up on the front of the chair, especially this front right corner where the strap is going down and attaching to the bassoon. Make sure that they have good general posture and the bassoon comes to them, and that the bocal comes out at a horizontal or slightly downward angle, and maybe just a little bit to the left. So that's some basics about posture and playing position. All right, so let's talk about hand and finger position. Starting with the left hand, the overall job of the left hand is to support and balance the bassoon here, but not to hold a lot of the weight of the bassoon. If the bassoon goes a lot past 45 degrees, seems to be tipping over, that hand's not quite doing its job. Now let's talk about the fingers. First of all, let's talk about the thumb of the left hand. That's a pretty easy one. It lives on this little tiny key called the whisper key. This little guy right here, okay? So we've got these larger thumb keys here and actually a bunch more over here. There's a ton of thumb keys for the left hand, but it's a lot simpler than it looks. So we've got all those thumb keys, but this little guy is where our thumb is going to live most of the time. Think of this as a tip of the thumb key. If the player puts their thumb way across here, it's kind of like a clarinet player putting their thumb all the way to the knuckle on the thumb rest on the clarinet. They don't have enough slack in their hand to get around to the front to seal the tone holes if their thumb is across here. So you got to back that thumb off to make sure you have enough slack or enough finger length to get all the way to the tone holes. So on the front, we've got 3 holes. We've got 2 that, well, they look different on different bassoons, but a lot of times these 2 are just holes. This third one is a ring key. So we've got 1, 2, 3 holes. And no matter what your bassoon looks like, these 3 spaces are for these 3 fingers on the front. Sometimes there's what's called a plateau key on this guy, and that's for students whose finger doesn't quite reach. But that is the furthest distance that a finger has to reach on this left hand. So let's figure out how it's all working. First of all, we've got our thumb on that whisper key all the way back here, the little tiny piece. And then my hand comes around, and actually the heel of my first finger, or maybe the first joint of my first finger in here, that's where that bassoon is resting. And I think of it almost like you rest a flute in your first finger. And once you hold the bassoon, hopefully you're holding one, but you get the idea there. It goes right at the base of that first finger, just at the top of the palm. And these fingers come around. The first 2 are going to be pretty naturally curved and feel maybe similar to covering a clarinet hole. The ring finger has to be relatively straight in order to reach its spot, and it's going to operate as a full straight finger here. The pinky lives on these 2 keys here, which are used. This top one is probably where it's going to want to live most of the time. And so we've got the straight ring finger and 2 curved fingers here. And you'll notice when I actually hold the instrument, my hand is coming in at about a 45-degree angle to the bassoon. So my arm is definitely not perpendicular, and my hand will never be perpendicular either. Definitely it's going to come in at, if it's straight up, it's like a downward angle, but it feels natural when you're here to come in at a little bit of a 45-degree angle. Now this brings into play your elbow all the way over here. So in order for both elbows to help wrists be comfortable and straight, there's a little bit of flying that goes on. Not like crazy out of control, but there's definitely a little bit of elbow up to make sure that the hand is comfortable. So we've got the thumb on the whisper key for the left hand. Comes around 1, 2, 3 fingers. Now let's talk about the right hand. The right thumb is totally different from the left thumb in that it should not be touching a key at all unless it's being used. The right thumb is responsible for a number of keys down here. Most infamously is the pancake key or the low E key right here. And then we've got some really common, this is your B flat key. You're going to play some B flats in band. So the thumb has to be free to get around to these different thumb keys over here, and therefore it should not be used to squeeze or hold the instrument. So if a kid is squeezing their thumb down and finding a place to put their thumb down, they're not using the seat strap effectively or holding the bassoon correctly. So make sure that thumb is floating, generally right above that pancake key, and that's the correct position for the thumb. Here for the right hand fingers, we have a tone hole here and a tone hole here. And then it looks a little more complicated, but this nice big paddle is definitely the most natural feeling and the correct place for the that finger on the right hand. Down here in the pinky keys, this closest one is going to be for our low F, and that's where our pinky is going to live most of the time. So again, we have one tone hole, another hole, this sort of paddle here, and then this low F key right here. Now, when I have all of this together, my thumb back here is floating, and my fingers in the front here are also coming in a little bit of an angle. They're fairly flat in general, and that's because the thumb has to have some freedom back here, so we want to make sure it has the slack or the room to maneuver. So the right hand fingers are generally fairly flat and operate in kind of a large finger motion. And this wrist, when a kid is sitting, it's really easy for that right hand, right elbow to drop in, okay? And so like a broken wing, basically. So we need to do a little bit of flying here and get our right elbow out as well. If a kid is really twisting and turning their wrist a lot, have them put their hand up in the air and wiggle their fingers as fast as they can. This is what we're looking for, this straight wrist right here. So we transfer that here, and we take it down here all the way onto the right hand fingers. Woo! And what happens is the elbow has to come out in order to maintain that straight wrist. But it's going to be, again, for hand health into the future, really important that that wrist is straight and these fingers are fairly flat. So altogether, the right hand's job on a macro level for the whole instrument, the right hand's job is to actually control the roll of the bassoon. So what you're noticing here is that bocal, that's totally positioned due to the rotation of the bassoon and its rotational position. And the right hand needs to be in charge of that. If the left hand tries to maneuver the bocal, it's going to start doing all kinds of funky stuff it shouldn't be doing. So the right hand does that, and the right hand is also where the crutch would be. I'm not using it right now, but it goes in a little hole right here in the side. And so that may help if the bassoon player needs some other leverage here to control the roll. But if you think someone with shortish fingers already, if you've got this thing holding your hand out away from the bassoon and you don't have long enough fingers to get down there, then this thing can really just cause a lot of tension, which is why this is really an optional piece, and you can use it if you want it. Otherwise, the right hand will sort of rest against the rod that's right here, and some bassoons are even equipped with a guard that goes right here that the right hand can rest against really, really easily. So if their instrument is being held correctly, the left hand is helping to bear some of the weight. It feels almost kind of like a flute. And the right hand, the thumb is floating and ready to play its keys all the way over here. We've got 1, 2, 3 fingers down here and a pinky. And all together, my elbows are a little bit out so that my wrists can be comfortable and pretty straight as they approach the instrument. So those are some of the basics of hand and finger position.